In today's video, we will be performing a secondary antibody incubation. Our first step is going to be performing 3 times 10-minute TBST washes. What we're going to do first is pour off our primary antibody. We're going to pour it off into a 15 milliliter Falcon tube. This allows us to put it in the 4-degree fridge and save it to be able to reuse it for approximately a week. What I'm going to be doing now is transferring the plot to a fresh container full of TBST. I'm ensuring to only grab the corner with flat forceps to avoid damaging the membrane. Now I can see there's still some primary antibody left in the container, so I'm just going to top that up in the tube to make sure I've got it all. Once that's done, I'm going to pop the lid back on my container, and then I'm going to put it on the shaker for a 10-minute wash. After that wash is done, I'm going to transfer the blot to a fresh container of 1 times TBST. Now I'm going to place the blot back on the shaker for another 10-minute wash. Now, for the third time, I'm going to transfer the blot once again to a fresh container of TBST. This is going to be our third and final wash before secondary antibody incubation. I'm going to place that blot back on the shaker for 10 minutes. Once those washes are done, we can proceed to the antibody incubation. What I'm first going to do is add 5 milliliters of blocking buffer to a 15 milliliter tube. This is what we're going to use to dilute the secondary antibody in. Alright, so now I've got the antibody on ice, and I'm going to be using a P10 pipette. For this antibody, I'm going to be pipetting a 1 in 5,000 dilution, so I'm going to be taking 1 microliter of antibody and adding it to 5 milliliters of blocking buffer. However, this dilution may change depending on the antibody you're using. Another important thing to do is to verify that your secondary antibody matches the animal that the primary antibody was raised in. So for example, for this blot, my primary antibody was raised in mouse. So for the secondary antibody, I'm using an antibody that's raised against mouse, so that this means it'll bind to the primary antibody. What I'm also doing is mixing by pipetting to ensure there's no antibody left in the pipette tip. Now that's pipetted, I'm going to vortex to mix. Now I'm going to transfer my blot just to an empty container. What I'm going to do now is pour the secondary antibody all over the front of the blot. I'm also just going to readjust it to make sure it lies completely flat in the container. Now I'm going to put the lid back on, and I'm going to put it back on the shaker for 1 hour. Now we're doing another 3 times 10-minute TBST washes. So once our blot is done, that 1 hour secondary incubation, we're going to transfer it to a tray of TBST. This is going to go back on the shaker for another 10 minutes. After that's done, we're going to transfer the blot to another fresh container of TBST for a second wash. We're going to place that on the shaker for another 10 minutes. Now for our third and final wash, we'll be transferring the blot once again to a tray of TBST. Here I'm going to put the lid back on, and then the blot's going to go back on the shaker for the third and final 10-minute wash. Next step from here is to proceed with imaging. Thank you for watching this video on how to perform a secondary incubation.